Scattered rain and snow showers continuing for a while. Lows lower to middle 30s. Still breezy and chilly Thursday. More sun on Friday. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Medical Center in Dalton, named by CareChex as the #1 hospital for cardiac care in the Northwest Georgia and Chattanooga region. And I'm Sourcine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patriot. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you prepared? Are you prepared for a financial collapse? What's coming down the road? What are the things that you need to be prepared for? What about severe weather? So severe weather is coming up. It's right around the corner. We had a little taste of it this week. We saw a lot of the storms that were further down south, but we're getting into tornado season here in this part of the country. So we have to be ready for that. We're going to spend some time talking about economic situations and what the economy looks like. And this is where I get into what I call the Chicken Little News Hour, because sometimes I think the sky is falling. It may not be, but it's always good to be prepared. And those are some of the things that we're going to talk about right here on the Patriot Prepper Show, sponsored by P5 Preparedness. As always, we are here to help get you ready for disaster. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to noon on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can find it on the TuneIn app, and you can also watch us live on the YouTube channel for Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Duke Nukem. I'm your host, and I'm joined, as always, by Eric Judd. How you doing?
I am doing wonderful, Duke. How about you on this little chilly, spitting snow kind of day?
Yeah, it's kind of chilly today, but I am really looking forward to the weekend. We've got some nice sunny weather. Hopefully the ground will dry out a little bit, but it's time to start thinking about the garden. Get the things going out there, get the soil turned over so we can start getting the seeds in the ground. That's what I'm looking forward to. So I could really use some sunshine this weekend.
Yeah. Well, I have like this garden in the house where it's in the basement, where it's actually in the cellar, and I run a lot of electricity to it. I have to keep the fluorescent lights running. It's kind of a cash crop type thing that I do. But I mean, that's a whole nother subject, and I know you don't want to cover that right now.
Unless it's aquaponics. We can put some fish down in there with your hydroponic system.
My plants will make you think you're seeing fish sometimes. So, yeah. No, it's good. It's good. So I'm a man of the earth is what I am.
Well, that's
man
good.
Of the people and man of the earth.
I have a lot of skills that I need to develop when it comes to gardening. I can grow a lot of the basic stuff, but I'm not what you would call a gardener.
Well, I can grow some of the most beautiful tomato plants you've ever seen in your life. There's only one problem with that. There's no tomatoes. The plants are absolutely gorgeous, but they do not produce any tomatoes.
We're pretty excited at P5 Preparedness because the aquaponics system that we have, we've got about 14 green peppers growing on it right now. And the tomatoes that we have in there, you're starting to see the blossoms.
Yeah, I saw that the other day when I was in there.
Yep, really good. The cabbage is going good. The spinach is coming up.
You still have kale?
Kale, yep. The kale, we've thinned it out quite a bit. And so there's it's still growing. It's still in there. But we've gotten a lot of the kale off of that.
And are the bluegill getting big enough so that you can harvest them also?
They are. We're trying to stretch it to Memorial Day. We're planning on having some sort of function at the store, and we'll have some sort of cookout. We'll grill the fish.
There you go.
And get those guys going, and then we'll put some more in there. You can't really put new fish in there with the bluegill because the bluegill will eat them.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of neat when we put the goldfish in there when we were getting our water going. And so the goldfish were the meals for the bluegill once we introduced them in there. Anyway, that was fun. It was interesting to watch.
I love that aquaponic system you have. I tell everybody about it. And, that's one of the, there's many reasons to go by the store, but go by and see the aquaponic system. It's just amazing how y'all got it set up and showing that you got a self-sustaining system right there in an area. What is it, about a 4x6 or 4x8 area, maybe?
About 4x6.
Yeah,
I think that's exactly right. We use it in the 275 gallon totes that chemicals or water come in.
Yeah.
And it's a very efficient way to raise a garden. All right, moving on to some of the tidbits that we have. Next week is Severe Weather Awareness Week. That's February 28th through March 5th. That's a good time to dust off the weather radio. If you have it, make sure you get new batteries in there, make sure it's tuned, functioning, and the alerts work. And I think it's next Thursday that they're going to do a statewide alert. And that Severe Weather Awareness Week is for Tennessee. I'm not sure exactly when they're doing them in Georgia or Alabama or the surrounding states, but those are the dates for Tennessee. The special this week is on weather radios at P5. We have the weather radios that we're offering at our cost. It's $19.95.
Wow.
These are great radios. They give out the alert, and you can have them powered by AC. You can plug it into the wall, or you can also run it off batteries, and that's very important.
They have rechargeable battery in it, or is it just the
It's just
AA batteries?
Just the AA's.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, but you can run it either way. If the power goes out, you still have the ability to get your alerts. So very important. Everybody should have a weather radio.
And $19.95. That's a bargain.
That really is. Again, that's our cost. We're offering about $10 off what you would find these at other places. And, it's good because they have other things on there besides the weather alerts. It could be an Amber Alert. It could be if there's a civil disturbance or something else, nuclear fallout. They'll put those alerts out on there. So the weather radio is a very important way to get the government alerts, the things that they're going to be sending out. Also, 2016 is a leap year. And so next Monday, we have February 29th. Happens every 4 years. If you're one of those lucky people born on February 29th,
and you get a birthday.
You've been alive for 16 years. You have a happy 4th birthday.
Yes, you do.
Always wondered, do those folks celebrate February 28th or March 1st?
I don't know. I think it's like dog years, too. I'm not sure they know how old they are, All depends who you talk to. Sometimes they're 7, sometimes they're 6.5. You don't ever know.
Yep.
So you should be born on a regular day, not leap year day. That's what I say.
Yeah. I mean,
come on. You could have waited 24 hours. You could have come early.
Think of other people.
Yeah. Come on, selfish people.
Or what about the hospitals? Have just change the form, the birthday. Don't put it on the 29th. Put it on March 1st.
Or we could do it the way they do, like the 13th floor, and just kind of skip over it.
Yeah, it doesn't
matter. Skip over leap year.
Right.
We just skip over that day.
That's right.
So.
The network topping, every Thursday night at P5 Preparedness, we have a network meeting. It's open to the public, and we call it a network or networking meeting because it's an opportunity for people who are interested in preparedness to get together and talk about the topic of the day. It's, again, free of charge. It starts at 6:45 and goes till 9 o'clock. We usually have a full house, so we ask that you call ahead and reserve a chair. You don't have to pay for it. Again, it's free. But we just want to make sure that you get a seat in the event that it's standing room only. You can reserve your spot by calling the store, P5 Preparedness, at 423-602-2175. And the store is located on East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel. If you take exit 3A on I-75, you'll be able to get there and not have any problems. We have a caller. Just a second here. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Duke Nukem, got a question for you. I was here when the tornado struck a few years ago, and that's the last thing I expected for this area. It was in Hickson. Now, in Florida, I experienced it, and we had generators and were prepared. In Pennsylvania, lots of flooding, but here I wasn't expecting it, and I couldn't find a generator.
Yeah, is that the tornado that was in 2012?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to know is going into this spring, because it looks like it's going to be crazy weather, what do I need to put in my trunk for just in case, or maybe have at the house? And I don't want to store a lot of gasoline, but can you talk to me about some of the alternatives, and at least to get through a couple of days, because we can have power for almost a week.
Sure.
And I'll listen on the radio.
Okay.
And I know this caller, and he's got a lot of junk in his trunk, so he's going to have to clear that out first so that you can make sure he's prepared.
Well, two things there. The generator, it's probably not the best place to store a generator or fuel in your trunk unless you have it in a proper container. And the proper containers to store fuel in a vehicle is very expensive, probably cost prohibitive. And again, it's a danger. And so, but what you could do is maybe if you have an outbuilding or you have a garage, that's a good place to store a generator. Don't run the generator in the garage. You want to make sure you have plenty of ventilation. Every now and then you'll see people that are dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. And one of those is because they're running generators inside. So make sure you have it outside. And you need to figure out what it is you want to run. If it's something like a tornado that is going to cause a short-term power outage, and what I would call short-term is 72 hours or less, then you could get a generator for about $500 or $600. It would be probably in the 5,000 watt range. And then you could power most of your important things that are in the house. And that would be a refrigerator and some lights and probably some fans. You probably wouldn't be able to run a stove. If you're going to have a whole house generator, you're probably looking at something about 15,000 watts. And then with that, you'd probably be better off having that hardwired, that's probably the wrong term, but hard plumbed into your natural gas system. So that way, when the power goes out, the natural gas will just allow the generator to kick on.
Does it automatically kick on like that, or do you have to go and turn the generator on?
It can be done both ways. Okay. If you get the expensive the whole house generator, you would be able to have a transfer switch with automatic sensors so that when grid power goes down, the generator would automatically kick on, and you have maybe a 5-second delay where your lights will go out before your power is restored. Now, one other note that was important about those tornadoes that was in 2012, and it happened in Hickson in the Ottawa area. There was no tornado warning that was issued for that tornado until after the fact, when it originally was seen and touched down. There's kind of an anomaly in the Chattanooga area that most people don't know about when it comes to the National Weather Service radars. There are basically 3 radars that will touch the Chattanooga area, and they are the Knoxville weather station, which I think is Morristown, and then to the west-southwest, you have Huntsville, Alabama, and then southeast of us, you have Atlanta. And each one of those were really at the extent of, at the far reaches of their radar capabilities. We're over 60 miles away from those radars. And that the way that the radar works, they can't see close to the ground because they have to get over terrain. So when the radar is spinning around, if you get some of those radar apps where you'll see the little line that spins around, those are kind of cone shaped, but it's not going out 90 degrees straight from the radar. It's angled up about 2 or 3 degrees. And so when it gets so far into the Chattanooga area, the bottom of that radar is probably 28 to 30,000 feet.
Well, and we also sit in a bowl. It's like a bowl in Chattanooga. That's why, it is tough for severe weather to get in here, but once it gets in here, it doesn't want to leave. That's why we don't get a lot of big snowstorms. And, we do have tornadoes, but they're really not as prevalent as they are. I'm from the Memphis, eastern Arkansas area, and I mean, we had them like every 3 days there during the spring. But here, because the bowl's sitting, it is hard not only for the radar to see what's coming in, but for the weather to, come up over the Cumberland Mountains there and fall back down. So it almost has to come up from almost due south.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And that's really important to know, because you have to really be more familiar with radar or with weather in this area than you do in a lot of other parts of the country. We have local radar here with the television news stations, but they're not responsible for issuing warnings. That's only the National Weather Service that can do that. And one thing that you can do is educate yourself on weather. You can go attend the storm spotter training sessions that are actually going on now. I think they've already had the one in Chattanooga, but they do have them in other areas. But one thing that is out there, if you go to the National Weather Service homepage, if you look at Skywarn, which is usually one of the tabs on the left-hand side, about 3/4 of the way down, they have all the curriculum for the Skywarn storm spotter classes. And you can attend those, or you can just look at it online and learn about it. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, dude, great show. I'm wondering, though, what if I get stuck in my car and I can't get access to any food anywhere? What kind of food should I keep in my car?
Okay, good question. It depends on the time of year. First of all, and the reason I say time of year is because there are some foods that are more susceptible to heat. As you know, if you leave a chocolate candy bar out in the heat, if you leave it in the sun, it's going to be melted and ruined in about 10 seconds. There are things that are always good to store in your car. Things like peanuts, if you don't have a peanut allergy, and protein bars. You can get those at the sporting goods store. Some of the supermarkets carry them. At P5 Preparedness, we do have those there. And It depends on how long you're planning on staying in the car. What I would say is have enough food for 24 hours, and you're going to have different cravings. You're going to want some kind of sweets.
And you're going to want protein too. I mean, that's the big one.
Protein,
beef jerky, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's going to stick with you, but you want to try it ahead of time. There are different foods, especially if you're not used to eating them all the time, that will upset your stomach. And the worst thing to be stuck in the car is when you really have to go to the bathroom and there's no place to go. So you want to try those foods ahead of time to see if you can eat that power bar and have it stick in your system for 8 hours without causing any kind of disruptions where you got to make a beeline run for the woods.
Yeah, you normally don't eat beef jerky, and then you're eating the spicy beef jerky. You might not be happy in an hour or so.
Right.
But really anything that you don't have to prepare, don't be putting a can of soup in there when you don't have a can opener or something like that.
Yeah. You can put MREs, which are the prepared meals ready to eat. Those things, they do have a heater with them, but it's safe in a vehicle. It may want to crack your window a little bit, but you don't have an open flame with that. And with the meals ready to eat, you don't have to cook those. You can eat them right in the package as they are. An MRE, if you were stranded in a car, the whole package would last you 24 hours. You're not going to be putting off a lot of or burning calories because you're not going to be exercising. You're mostly just going to be sitting in the car. So that MRE will last you a long time. They have between 3,500 and 4,000 calories. They were made for soldiers for really active activities outdoors. Usually when soldiers are deployed, they would have 2 meals per day of the MREs. And then also you want to make sure you have plenty of water in your vehicle. I would say at all times have at least one Nalgene bottle, 32 ounces of water per person in your vehicle. The Nalgenes are easy enough to fill up with water. They're a little bit larger. You can buy an insulated pack for them, and those will keep in your car really for any temperature for up to 6 months, and then just change it out every 6 months.
And don't forget to rotate all this stuff too. Like you said, seasonal.
Yeah. If you're going to leave your food in the car in the summer months, I would say change it out maybe every month.
Yeah.
And if it's the winter, I would change it out quite less than that, maybe every 6 months or so. And what I was saying about the water, leave that water in your vehicle at all times. And then if you're going on a trip, if you're driving from here to Atlanta or Knoxville, well, then fill up an additional Nalgene bottle for you to drink. And that way you have the emergency stash in there as well as the water for your trip. And also make sure you have extra clothing in there. Have an extra blanket if you're going to be going a long distance. If you know you're going to be going through snowy conditions, plan on being out in that snow for 2 hours. So you would need to dress appropriately, have boots available. You would have a blanket, a heavy jacket, gloves, and some sort of winter hat.
And something I've heard you say time and time again is always take extra socks, because there's nothing worse than cold, wet feet.
Exactly. And, if you have a pair of wool socks in there, wool is fantastic because it wicks water away. It'll keep your feet dry even when your feet are wet. And not only that, but the wool socks, you can also use them as gloves or mittens if you need to. Sometimes if you just have thin gloves, you can put those wool socks on over the mittens. So be creative. There are a lot of things that you can do that will help you to be ready for those different emergencies that you have.
And, none of this stuff takes up a lot of room in your trunk, or maybe if you drive an SUV in the back of the car. So, just make sure it's secured. And, maybe you've got a crate or a box you want to put it in, but we're not talking about a lot of room, not talking about a lot of weight either.
No, if you need a small sports duffel bag, go to a garage sale. You can pick one up for $1.
Yeah.
Everybody has them from when their kids were little.
Well, everybody gives away these free backpacks, and that'd be perfect. You fill it up, and then it's easy to carry too if you have to get out of the car and walk.
Sure. There are lots of inexpensive ways that you can prep and get ready. There are some things that you really shouldn't skimp on. The things, especially when your life depends on it, you want to make sure that you buy good quality gear. And if you have questions about gear, always, you can come to P5 Preparedness, talk to Keith, talk to Seth, talk to Duke, that's me, and we'll help you. And one of the things we're going to talk about, this kind of leads into one of the topics that I wanted to talk about today, is prepping priorities. Priorities, we all have them. It's just a matter of putting them in the right order, in the right perspective. And preparedness is something that I think a lot of people put way down the list because it involves things that we don't really want to talk about. We don't want to think about what if the power goes out? Or what if a tornado comes and hits my home? There are so many things that we don't talk about when it comes to preparedness. It's those what if scenarios, but there are so many times in life that we readily jump into those what if scenarios. You know, I guess it was just a month ago when the lottery was over $1 billion. How many of you bought a lottery ticket when you had a 1 in 600 million chance of winning the lottery? How many of you have car insurance, yet you've never had an accident? Some people have medical insurance, yet they've never gone to the doctor because they're so healthy. So we do these things for insurance reasons, or if we think there's a chance. So we think there's a I guess if the lottery's around $25 million each week, there's about a 1 in 16 million chance of winning the lottery, just how the numbers and the odds play out. But we still have people that play the lottery every week for a 1 in a 16 million chance. Well, there's a lot bigger chance of having some sort of economic hardship in your life. Or, you know, maybe it could be losing a job. How many of us have cash on hand? Well, we're going to get into those economic scenarios in the second part of the show. But what I want you to think about are your priorities for survival. We all have them, you know. Keep talking. Okay, so not sure why the music's going. We're going to keep talking here. I think we
somebody does not want you to be prepared, Duke.
And I wasn't, because I stopped talking. All right, so I'm talking about priorities, and we all have to have priorities and putting them in the right order. Some of it may be having the right gear. It may be that we need to work on our fitness. It could be that we have water available, but we don't know how to clean it. We don't know how to process the water. And so it might be a water filter. There are different things that we need to do, and we need to figure out what gear do we have? What things do we have around the house already? And a lot of people ask me, where do I start? How do I start with preparedness? Because it's overwhelming. Well, you need to look to see what you already have. Maybe you already have a good supply of food, and you may have, let's say, you talk to us, we help you figure out how much food exactly that you have, and you have 3 weeks supply of food, and your house is on a stream, or you have a swimming pool, or you already capture water from, in a rain barrel or something that comes off your gutters. So it may be that you just need to add a water filter in there. And you're thinking about putting together a bug out bag, because that's the thing that you need to do next. And your plan is to build this bug out bag, and then you may have to walk wherever you're going. But in reality, you've not left the couch in many months. You haven't pushed away from the buffet in many months. And the reality is that you're not in good enough physical shape to fill that bag and carry it. So you would need to move your fitness up on that list. Fitness is not something that you have to spend a lot of time doing, especially if you're really out of shape. It may just be starting 5 minutes a day. But do something. Work on your arms. Work on your fitness. Talk to your doctor. Figure out what works best for you. But you have to start. You can't put it off any longer. You may be carrying extra weight. You may be a type 2 diabetic that's related to weight. Give up the soda. Give up the fries. You have to start. You have to make these things a priority. You have to do what you need to do. So I guess we're just going to keep playing the music throughout the show. Hopefully you all love Indiana Jones. Okay. Well, we're going to be right back after this message, and we'll continue with the Patriot Prepper Show.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Fox News Talk 1240. Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Fox News Talk 1240.
MLS 2239. What would you do with all that cash? Listen up, y'all. Ben Phillips here, Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100.
$1,200. That's how much we just put back in a Saudi Daisy family's pocket per month. All they did was pick up the phone. 805-9100. That's 805-9100. Get that quick quote now. 805-9100. HomeRateMortgage.com. MLS 239. Do you want to achieve the American dream in 2016? Listen up, y'all. I'm Ben Phillips with Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100. We just helped a police officer purchase his first home in East Brainerd. Now he's grilling and chilling on his back deck. The American dream. You could achieve it with no money down options. Why wouldn't you call? 805-9100, HomeRateMortgage.com.
Are you prepared? Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? Now is the time to come to P5 Preparedness. We offer preparedness classes, supplies, and over 30 years of combined knowledge. P5 Preparedness, located on East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel. Look for the big Army truck. Call us at 423-602-2175. Do not wait. You need to get prepared today. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds. Get the skills and supplies you need or die waiting for help. P5 Preparedness.
Are you prepared for severe weather? February 28th through March 5th is Severe Weather Awareness Week in Tennessee. Do you have a severe weather plan? Do you know how to protect yourself from tornadoes? And most importantly, do you have a weather alert radio? Come to P5 Preparedness and let us help you get ready for severe weather or any other emergency. P5 Preparedness is located on East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel. Look for the green Army truck. Call us at 423-602-2175. You need to get prepared today. Don't wait until it's too late. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds. Get the skills and supplies you need or die waiting for help. P5Preparedness.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Little, candidate for criminal court judge with 25 years of criminal court experience, which makes me the most qualified candidate. The experience I have gained from handling over 4,000 cases in state and federal court has equipped me with the ability to be fair, impartial, and independent. As your next criminal court judge, I will focus on keeping Hamilton County safe. I view this position as a public service and will strive to improve the daily operation of the court. I humbly ask for your trust and vote in the March 1st Republican primary.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mike Little, Barry Abbott, Treasurer.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. The man being sought after in a rape case in Nashville was arrested on Wednesday afternoon in Chattanooga following an extensive high-speed freeway chase down I-75, which ended in multiple wrecks at the East Brainerd Road exit. One Tennessee Highway Patrol officer was injured in that wreck with minor injuries. Charged was 20-year-old Cardarius DeMonte Caldwell, who police say sexually assaulted a woman from Rutherford County whom he met on Facebook. Police say he held a gun to her at her house on Cherry Street while assaulting her. They also say he stole a car from a gas station and sped off before he was stopped at the East Brainerd Road exit many miles later. Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies say that there was a shooting that happened on Highwater Road in Saudi Daisy. When deputies got there, they did find one person with a gunshot wound. The deputies are still investigating further. The scene is secure as of now. To keep a leg up on the weather, make sure you get the Bloom Sky app for your smartphone. Search for Chattanooga, and you'll get the live view from us here at Hot News Talk Radio. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on at Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
And we're back on the Patriot Prepper Show right here on 1240 Hot News Talk Radio in Chattanooga. Hope you're watching on YouTube, or you can tune in and listen on the TuneIn app. We finished the first segment talking about priorities. And my point was, you can
Duke, I don't want to interrupt you, but I had a text while we were at commercial break, and it was someone that's very close to you, and they said that they're highly upset with you because you actually have brought a special guest who is actually not on the air, but in the studio, and you have not one time mentioned that. And so I was just going to relay that message to you.
Well, that would be my dog.
Yes.
Lottie is running around in the back causing havoc. she's going to the woods with us today.
Yeah, she's actually a very good dog. Don't let him tell you that. She has been great. She's laying at the door waiting on Duke to get off the air like a good dog should wait on their master. Anyway, back to preparedness.
Talking about priorities. Priorities are something that you always need to take a look at. If going out to dinner with your family or going on a vacation every year is a priority, does it really have to be every year? Maybe you can use that money for something else. You have to look at the times and what's going on, and you have to readjust those priorities. You know, if you're spending a lot of time watching the presidential debates, is that really worth it? I mean, are you really undecided about who you're going to vote for at this point? If it boils down to one of the 5 Republican candidates, you're probably going to vote for one of those 5, no matter who it is. And on the Democrat side, you're probably going to vote for one of those 2, no matter who it is. So quit wasting your time watching the debates and listening to all the nonsense that they're saying when you can be putting that time to more use. You can be reading a preparedness book or looking up important information about your stock portfolio, your investments, or finding some investments or finding another job. You have to look at your priorities and figure out where you can plug those gaps. Food, water, shelter, protection, those are the most important things. If you have gaps there, you need to fill those immediately because the government isn't going to do that for you. In looking at some of the economic news that's going on, if you look at some of the tweets that I've sent out in the last few weeks, there's one of them that's pretty.
If they want to follow you, Duke, why don't you give your Twitter right quick?
Yeah, good point. My Twitter name is at Renegade Rebel 52. Renegade Rebel 52. Don't ask me how I got that. I've been called.
Well, I can tell. I'll be more than happy to give the story behind that right quick. He is a renegade. He's a former Ole Miss football player, so hence the Rebel, and he's 52 years old. So see, it's maybe the last part's not correct.
52 is my high school football number. But the thing is that a renegade rebel, that's kind of an oxymoron. It means I'm normal. You know, everybody thinks I'm crazy. They call me a rebel. They call me a renegade. But I think I'm perfectly normal. My wife would disagree. My dog would disagree. But everybody else would probably, well, okay, maybe not. Anyway, so the economic news, one of the stories that I tweeted out is from Zero Hedge. And we have another caller. I missed the button.
So caller, please call back. We sorry, we had a malfunction here in the studio with our fingers. So
the tweet is from Zero Hedge, and it has a chart that it mirrors what's going on today on the S&P 500 with what was going on back in 2008, 2009. Hang on, we've got the caller back. Hey, go ahead, caller. You're on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for calling in.
I have a question. How could we have been better prepared here in Hickson? In the April 2012, we had some twisters that had hit us like suddenly, did a lot of damage here. So how, as a citizen of Hickson, could we have been more prepared for an issue like that? I'll be listening. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling. Yeah, I think that one of the things that you can do is if you really need to learn about weather radio, about weather radar. And you can track these storm systems using the radars that you get through the National Weather Service. And a lot of the times, if you just go to the National Weather Service for Chattanooga, for instance, I always go to the first, like I said, National Weather Service. You can go to weather.com. There's a lot of different ones that you can get. But the ones through the National Weather Service are really the ones that everybody goes to look at. And first thing you do, if you click on the radar and satellite image, you'll see where it just has the current rain, things like that. But you can go to things like the reflectivity on the left-hand side. If you click on the base loop for the reflectivity, a big word, but that will show what is moving, what is coming your way. And you can kind of track to see where those big storms are headed, and you will see a history. A lot of these tornadoes, sometimes they do just drop out of the air kind of unexpectedly, but there's usually a lot of signs. And when we're under a a tornado watch. That means that there's a good possibility that a storm could develop. And you need to watch those radars because can often see, for instance, just picking a spot on the radar here, if there's storms moving northeast from the Gadsden, Alabama area, if there are tornado warnings, they will be tracking and moving as time progresses. And you can see where those storms are going. Now, the one that we had in 2012 in Hickson and in Ottawa, that was not a long track tornado. That wasn't something that had a long history. So that's where you're just going to have to, I hate to say it, but just pay attention to your local weather. And what I mean by that, if you have the experience, if you've been through the storm spotter classes, they will show you what tornadic thunderstorm clouds look like. And you can watch those weather clouds as they are overhead, and you will see the possibility of a tornado developing.
Do y'all have a weather class at P5? Do y'all ever offer a weather class?
We have not, but that is something that we can do. Yeah. The thing with that is that usually you want a trained instructor, and those are through the National Weather Service, and it's somewhat hard to get those.
Right.
I've been through a number of training classes where at one time I was an elite storm spotter, and in my career, I probably chased about, I'd say about 100 storms, and I've only seen one funnel cloud that actually dropped. It never hit the ground, but I've seen in those storms probably 50 or so different clouds where they were either wall clouds or there was something that made me worry that a tornado could drop. And
I think what the caller, is asking says, what should they do in prepare? We're coming into severe weather season, for lack of a better term. Is there things that they can do at home to be prepared? I know they need a weather radio, but should they keep extra water or be prepared if the electricity goes out?
One thing, there's a couple things that you can do. Obviously, the preparedness stuff. If you were going to go into a shelter in your home, and sheltering in your home, you want to go to a low room if you have a basement. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have a walkout basement, but you'll have a back corner that is backing up against earth on both sides. That's a good location. A central room in your house, perhaps it's under a stairway or it's a bathroom that is in your house that's low to the ground. It's in the middle of your house and the walls are fairly close. And it may be that you have to push 4 or 5 people into that tiny closet, but that's the safest place to be. It's always good to have water. Maybe you can pre-position some water in there, maybe some little snacks, M&Ms, combos, chips, peanut butter crackers, things like that. And you can leave them in there. So that way, if you ever do have to go in there, you'll know, or you'll already have them in there that you can eat. Have an FM radio available, or AM, FM radio. We're on AM here, so that would be even better. And
a weather radio, you want to make sure you can make sure whatever weather radio you have, which P5's got them on sale right now for $19.95, they're portable and they've got batteries to them, but they will also run off of electricity. That way you're not running your batteries down constantly and have extra batteries.
Another suggestion that I would have is to have a whistle or have an air horn available, because if your house does come down on you and you need rescue, there's a lot of chaos that's going on outside. And people, or it could be a lot of people screaming. It could be alarms going off, car alarms from those cars that have been destroyed. And so you need to get people's attention. And if you have that whistle or air horn, you can draw attention to you and they can start helping to get you out. So kind of a long-winded answer on the weather there, but you can learn about what to look for in the clouds themselves. And in most instances, the Weather Service is going to be able to give us alerts, but they aren't 100% accurate. And those alerts don't come out every single time before the storm. All right, we're going to flip back to some of the economic news. When I was talking about the S&P chart that I had tweeted out, I think last week, it's from zerohedge.com. And it shows the track from the 2008 stock market crash. And it's overlaid with what the current S&P chart is doing. And this chart indicates that for the last 8 months, it's been following the exact same pattern that it did 7 years ago. And if it continues to follow that same pattern, that means in about mid-April, early May, we're going to see another financial crash, just like we had in 2008. We've added in the debt market, we've added several $1 trillion to the national debt. The global economy has really contracted. There are a lot of things out there that make the economy fairly risky. I've talked to some people that work in the manufacturing sector in the Chattanooga area, and their companies are starting to talk about layoffs, and not in small numbers, but in large numbers. So protecting yourself from an economic collapse, that's something that could affect all of us. And you may think it may not affect you, it may not affect your job specifically, but you never know. If you look at the contraction in retail over the last several months, that's pretty significant. Not only that, but even I saw a chart today that showed that the restaurant and bar industry is starting to lay off. That is where a lot of the college graduates in the last few years have gone. They've become waiters, bartenders, servers in the restaurant industry, and now those businesses are hurting as well. When you look at the unemployment rate in the United States, you really can't look at what the government tells you, because they don't count the people that are no longer looking for work. And if you've received 6 months of benefits, whether you're still looking for work or not, the government says, well, you're not looking for work anymore. We're not going to count you as unemployed. So their number is under 6%. If you go to shadowstats.com and you look at their index, they say the unemployment rate is nearly 23%. I tend to believe that is a lot more accurate, because one of the things that the government tracks is people not working in the workforce. We have 95 million Americans that are out of the labor force right now. That's an all-time high. So that's a lot of good people that can work but are not working because there are no jobs out there. In addition to that, maybe it's some of that same 95 million folks. There are 48 million people currently on food stamps. That's 15% of the population. 48 million people on food stamps. That doesn't include the number of people that are getting some sort of economic aid. You can get a check from the government that isn't food stamps. It could just be the straight welfare portion of that. As I was doing some research for this topic, I found one thing particularly interesting. When I'm looking for charts on the number of welfare people or the number of people out of work, really the bulk of the charts stopped being produced around 2011. I could only find one chart out of hundreds that I looked through that went up so far as 2014. Well, that data comes out every month, or at least it should, but why isn't it? Why are people not talking about what the true state of the economy is? We don't track the number of people on food stamps. Give me a break. We pay these people every month. We know exactly how many people are being paid, but that number, it either isn't being made public or people aren't doing the research. Now, why wouldn't people do the research? I think that's not a true statement. I think people would do the research if they had the numbers available to them. So my point of saying that, if there was some sort of economic collapse, if, for instance, the lights went out through an EMP, that could be sunspots. It could be a nuclear device going over the United States. We don't know what could turn the power out.
Could be hacked. Maybe the electrical grid is hacked and they start taking down certain segments of the country, which is going to affect all of the country. I mean, that could happen pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because I think most of those run off the Clinton server anyway. So see, we know it was hacked.
Right. Yeah. If it's an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, well, then the grid is down and we don't really have to worry about economics. Then it's just plain survival that we have to worry about. And by the way, the network meeting tonight, the topic is EMP, electromagnetic pulse. It starts at the store, P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd Road. It's between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. The meeting starts at 6:45. Call the store. You can sign up for the class there. It's free of charge, but seats are limited. Make sure you get a seat. So call the store at 423-602-2175. We'll make sure we hold a seat there for you. On some other economic notes, the gold is around $1,230 an ounce. It started to creep back up a little bit. Forecasters are sort of iffy. They think there may be another drop down before it really goes and spikes through the roof. You should buy commodities. Commodities are a lot safer, in my opinion, than the stock market. You know, you want to have things in hand. You want to be able to put your hands on that gold coin or that silver coin. You know, you can buy gold. You know, if you're thinking, well, I have to spend $1,230, I don't have that kind of money. Well, you can buy 1/10 of an ounce of gold. Those are a little bit more expensive on the percentage wise, but probably around $140. You could buy 1/10 of an ounce of gold. Silver is around $15-20 an ounce. That's a great price. You know, gold and silver have been currencies for thousands of years. You know, they predate most countries, and they always hold some form of value. I recommend getting junk silver coins as well. Have that be part of your preparedness stash, because there are only so many things that you can buy or trade, and you never know what somebody else will want to trade with you. And at the very line, just about everybody would be willing to accept silver coins.
Yeah, and that's very important. And what kind of, you call them junk silver coins? Kind of give an example of what that would be.
Sure. Junk silver is anything pre-1965 in American. It's mostly dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars. The nickels and the pennies were made with other materials.
Right.
But yeah, junk silver dimes. If you think of the old Mercury dimes, the old Ben Franklin half dollars, those are the junk silver that would be really good to have. You can get those at the gold and silver dealers here locally. So it's great to have that a part of your portfolio, because it will retain its value. Other things that are good to put back, to invest in: guns. Guns are not losing their value. And if the government ever does succeed in confiscating guns, they've talked about that, they would really like to get guns off the streets. Their value is going to go up exponentially. Ammunition is the same way. You want to make sure your ammunition is sealed properly. You want to make sure that it doesn't have corrosive primers in it. And canned goods, long-term storage food, those are things that you can always use. They don't go bad. Well, everything goes bad. But when you're thinking that a number 10 can of food can last for 30 years unopened and be in the same condition as when it was packed, that is something that you really want to have in some bad times. One thing that we've heard a lot about, if you're listening to some of the news stories out there, mostly the alternative news, there's a push by the world banks, the central banks. The Federal Reserve is one. They're making a push to eliminate cash. You probably don't realize that only 1% of our economy is dealt with by cash. 1%. 99% is electronic transactions. So from a banker's standpoint, getting rid of that last 1% makes things so much easier for the banks, not for us. This is not in our best interests. The purpose of the central banks is to look out for the banks, not for us. So what happens if they eliminate cash? Well, how do we, the citizens, how do we deal with each other? How is my son going to have a lawn service and mow yards in the neighborhood if he can't collect cash? Is he going to have a little device on top of his smartphone and get the credit card swiped? I don't know. Maybe. Is that something that sounds good to you? What if somebody shuts that system off? They shut off the electronic system, or they limit to, you can only do transactions that are less than $50. You know, you can't just go to the ATM and get out the cash that you want or your need.
And we've seen this happen before. Cyprus is one, you know, where they limited all withdrawals, whether it be ATM or from banks. So it can happen. It's not just some theory that's out there. We've seen it here in the last 4 or 5 years.
The bankers are supposedly working on eliminating cash, so that way they can introduce zero interest rates, or not even zero. That's where we've been at for several years. Negative interest rates. And a negative interest rate means if you keep $1,000 in the bank and it's a negative interest rate of 1%, you have to pay the bank $10 for holding your money. You know, I own a business, and when I do a transaction on Sunday or a Saturday, that money is immediately taken out of my account. When I spend money electronically, it's immediately taken out of my account. But if somebody shops in my store and they make a credit card purchase Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, that money doesn't show up in my account till Monday. So why is that? They can take my money immediately, but it takes 2 or 3 days to get the money put back into my account. Well, they make money on my money. And so I shouldn't have to pay for them to keep my money when they're already making money on it. We've talked a little bit about limiting cash withdrawals. That's one of the things they want to do. Another thing that the banks could do is seize your assets. They could seize your 401k or your pension. It was just a few years ago that they made, I'm not exactly sure when it was or how it was done, but they made all entities declare their foreign assets. So if you've put your money in an offshore account in the Cayman Islands or wherever, a Swiss bank account, you have to declare that. You have to tell the bank or the government how much money you have overseas, and you have to give them their account number. Well, that's so they can get your money if they want it. So there are a lot of things that you need to do to prepare for something like that. What are the skills that you have that are tradable? Do you have skills for home repair? What about food production? You know, if you could produce eggs or honey or vegetables for trade, for barter, for sale, those are things that are very important that can help other people. If you could do tool repair, that's something. If you could charge batteries for other people, that's something that could go a long way in helping your long-term survival. You have to, as we talked about earlier, you got to talk about priorities. What are your priorities? Now's probably not the time to be thinking about buying a new car. You know, the car loan bubble is hit $200 billion. It was just a few years ago that we had the big mortgage bubble, the mortgage bailouts, the mortgage meltdown. Well, we're halfway there with auto loans. So that's something that could be coming around the corner. So think about your priorities. Think about the things that you need to do right now to help you be better prepared. Come to P5 Preparedness. We're always willing to talk to you. You're not crazy when you walk into our store. Well, you might be crazy, but if you're talking about preparedness, you're definitely sane in our book. It doesn't matter if you're experienced or if you're brand new. We love to talk to everybody that comes in. We're willing to help you. The store, P5 Preparedness, is located at 1309 Panorama Drive in Chattanooga. We're on East Brainerd Road between Gun Barrel and I-75. It's exit 3A. Network meeting tonight. We're covering EMP. The special this week, weather radios, $19.95. That's our cost. We'll talk to you again next Thursday right here on the Patriot Prepper Show, AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Colin Cowherd is up next.
We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect very breezy and cooler weather out there through the afternoon. A few off and on showers still around. Dropping temperatures, though, through the evening with a few of those rain showers changing to snow showers into the mountains tonight. Scattered rain and snow showers continuing for a while. Lows lower to middle 30s. Still breezy and chilly Thursday. More sun on Friday. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Medical Center in Dalton. Named by CareChex as the #1 hospital for cardiac care in the Northwest Georgia and Chattanooga region. And I'm Sorgene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patriot. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
In the middle of our street.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at SabrinaRealty.com.
Our house in the middle of our street.
Nooganomics.com is a slap of fresh air, a 2x4 across the brain every morning. Read Nooganomics.com to find out what's happening in Chattanooga. Local-centric, Nooga-centric. Read it. The man who matters does. You should too. Nooganomics.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Side.
3, 2, 1. Up next. Coming up in the herd, Rams general manager Les Snead stops by. Where will he find his quarterback of the future? Because LA's going to need one. Court storming. Good or bad for college basketball. All that, much more coming up. This is the herd.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You guys can laugh at me all you want.
This is the herd. The herd. With Colin Cowherd.
I'm setting the tone.
Best show on radio.
This is the herd.
Broadcasting live from Los Angeles. The herd with Colin Cowherd starts now.
This is the herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are live in Los Angeles on Fox Sports Radio and iHeartRadio. No TV today. Great show, though. Les Snead, LA Rams general manager. Richard Roper, film critic, Chicago Sun-Times on the Oscars. Generally, my mom was pretty good about kind of setting a trend in my life about eating well. She was kind of ahead of her time. We were kids. We were always eating like bran muffins and no white bread in the house, very little white flour. So my mom was pretty good about that. So I have been, for the last 25 years as an adult, when I've been on my own,